Also joining me this hour, Representative Raja Krishnamoorthi, Democrat from Illinois, who serves on the House Oversight Committee, which, of course, has been conducting its own investigation into the Epstein files. Congressman, it's good to have you here tonight. Democrats on your committee also flagging, right, which Evan was just touching on, but flagging this image, which seems to have been removed from the DOJ website. CNN has reached out to the White House, has reached out to the DOJ for clarification. We have not yet received it. I'm curious if you've received an answer as to why this was apparently removed.
No, I have not. And quite frankly, it's mystifying that it was removed after it was already released. But I guess it shouldn't be totally surprising because there are numerous categories of documents that haven't been produced that are required to be produced under the law. For instance, investigative materials associated with the U.S. Attorney's investigations, both in Florida and New York. Also, financial records. There were more than $1 billion in transactions associated with this ghastly child sex trafficking ring, and those aren't produced. And then, I went on the website and just did my own searches, and I couldn't come up with anything when I type in, for instance, the word Trump, even though we know there are numerous documents basically showing his name in them. So this is an incomplete document production at best. It feels like a hoax, as the president might describe it.
As you know, Todd Blanche has said that there would be more coming. So this is not obviously the end of things. He also said that the DOJ would not show any favoritism and not withhold any material because, quote, there's the name Donald J. Trump or anybody else's name. So knowing that there is still more to come, do you believe that you will, in fact, get all of those documents? And specifically, I know financial records are something that you have really wanted to see. Do you believe that all of that will ultimately be released?
I hope so. But they should have been released by today. And so I think there's going to be a lot of public pressure for the release of those documents. There's incredible, intense interest in this particular issue. And here's why. I mean, there's more than 1,000 victims of this child sex trafficking ring. They were girls at the time, and now they're middle-aged women who have yet to be served justice. And so I think them coming forward and to Congress and to us has kind of stiffened the resolve of Democrats and Republicans to get to the bottom of what's happened and to make sure that we get full transparency and accountability with regard to this sex trafficking ring.
There has been a good amount of concern, and rightfully so, about those survivors and making sure that they were protected in the release of these documents, that their families were protected. And yet there are questions about how the lack of context could impact them with these documents, and also some of the inconsistencies in terms of redactions and protecting the identities of several men. What do you see in that? And do you believe that there's any recourse?
Well, I think the best recourse right now is full transparency with regard to the Epstein files. I think that you can't get context unless you get the full production of documents, obviously redacting for the sensitive information that the law requires to be redacted. But if you just get it in pieces and snippets, there's not context. Now, the other thing that people should know is that the Epstein estate is producing documents on a rolling basis. And so that adds a little more context as well. But at the end of the day, it looks like it's starting to look like a cover-up to me, Erica. I think that the Justice Department has access to tremendous amounts of information, and they're deliberately withholding it right now.
So you say this is starting to look like a cover-up, as we've heard from Representative Ro Khanna that he is, considering potentially articles of impeachment. He was asked specifically about that by my colleague Caitlin Collins last night. I just want to play his answer.
Thomas Massey and I talked about it. He's working, as am I, on drafting articles of impeachment and inherent contempt. We haven't decided whether to move it forward yet, but we're in the process of doing it. My hope is she looks at this. She looks at the outrage that MAGA has. She looks at the disappointment that the survivors have, and she makes a decision over the next 2 weeks to actually start releasing these documents, because she may lose more Republicans in the House than she anticipates.
Would you support those impeachment efforts?
Possibly. I hope that they actually produce the rest of these documents. And I think that one thing I agree with is that I think that the White House has kind of underestimated the intensity of kind of grassroots sentiment on this issue. People want us to make sure that we get to the bottom of what's happened and make sure that these victims have justice done for their cases, but also, very importantly, preventing this from ever happening again. The fact that this has occurred even once in the past means that it could happen again, and that the perpetrators are in our midst and that they could be doing harm as we speak.
Before I let you go, I do want to ask you about some more news of day, which is this U.S. seizure of another sanctioned oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. I know there has been a push by a number of members of Congress, right, to be more actively engaged in some of these decisions on oversight, understandably. What do you think the impact of this move is in the early hours this morning when it comes to this pressure campaign that the president is looking to wage or is waging against Nicolas Maduro?
My concern is that he's trying to provoke a war. That is my concern. I think right now, the president, in talking about potentially undertaking land strikes, saying that this is actually about narco-terrorism when he just pardoned one of the biggest narco-terrorists ever who was convicted in an American court of law. I think it puts this all in context, and that this is not about narco-terrorism. It seems to be about regime change. It seems to be the prelude to war, and only the American people have the right to declare war. He must come to Congress. I oppose what he's doing right now.
Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you so much.